All right, one more series to go here today, watching the Elite Classic 4, hosted by EGC TV. That's Whammon. I'm Soccerton. We've got LucifroN and Puppypaw. We've had one Canadian brother, now we get the other. We've also had one Spanish brother. Now we get the other. Fun stuff. We're starting off. Yeah, they're just splitting them up, you know. Eventually they'll get to play each other, I'm sure.
We're just trying to find the ultimate brother, I guess, in all of this.
Ultimate brother?
Yeah.
Is the ultimate brother Spanish or Canadian? And which of the two is the ultimate one? Yeah, to be seen. The tricky thing is that I feel like over time, like especially with like Puppypaw and Wham, there have been different times where Puppypaw has been better and then Wham has been better. It's kind of fun to see how it like over time it's like a changing of seasons almost, you know. Sometimes it's the Puppypaw season, sometimes it's the LucifroN season. Feels like right now it's either the Wham or Vortex season right now.
Well, I'm hoping it's a little bit of the LucifroN season, because LucifroN, he has shown us a bit more of that aggressive side recently. I mean, with his recent performance in S-tier events, he is looking like someone I think everyone should be afraid of. Looking at his picks as well, we can take a moment here. KT was banned against him. Now, of course, we have 4 lakes, and I would say we have Lakeside, but at the same time, we also saw that KT can be played on land. Now, getting KT banned is definitely not something I expected to see today, though.
Yeah, not with some of the other civs that are out there right now. I mean, Byzantine's going through, some of the other ones kind of sneaking in, Lancaster sneaking through. We've seen that played with okay effect. I don't know. It's tricky when the meta changes, like, which civ is the ultimate end-all be-all. Like it shifts, and then in different players' hands, sometimes in different scenarios, different matchups, it may or may not be any particular civ. I'm not surprised, however, to see Maulians banned on both sides. Both these players, I think, have used it really well. I've seen Maulians be really effective in some of these tournament settings. Not surprised to see that. Not surprised to see Macedonians be banned. It is kind of interesting to see it sneak through for LucifroN. I wonder if we'll see that be used to a win here on Coastal Cliffs, because that's what we're getting right off the bat.
And what I love about this is that the only way we got to see Macedonians today is by picking Byzantines and Macedonians. And that was the only allowance we'll give you guys. That's the only time you're ever going to see them in tournament play, they say. So Puppypaw allowing through the Macedonians instead. I mean, you get it out of the way pretty quickly, see how bad it can be or how dangerous it can be. But let's go see what the Golden Horde has in store for us on Coastal Cliffs, as Puppypaw is wielding a pretty crazy civilization there as well. And to be fair, his brother showed us exactly how to play it. So if Wham can do it at that level, I have a feeling that Mr. Puppypaw is going to give us a similar showcase.
Well, we'll find out here as we dive into game number 1 of this best of 5 series. In the Northeast, in yellow, LucifroN playing as the Macedonian dynasty, sneaking through. It was either them or Byzantines, so you get one version of them one way or the other. And down here in the Southwest, in the red, Puppypaw playing as the Golden Horde.
Now, nothing crazy happening in our Dark Age today, I say, hopefully not cursing it. But of course, with Macedonians, you don't usually get to see that same level of aggression. And in this case, just going for a nice old deer situation makes sense. We've seen Macedonian go out onto the deer pretty quickly in most circumstances. And getting it out of the way early on, it feels perfectly fine. You want to most likely use your Golden Horn Tower in a different spot. And taking a quick look at these spawns, you can see that there's a decent enough position for it. And I would say a little bit more to the north, because you have 2 gold, you have a berry bush, and you have a deer pack that can be easily secured with the right placement here. And Macedonians, they're not a civilization that builds early farms. So it is definitely not something I am expecting to see from LucifroN. I know he's a man who likes to secure his areas pretty broadly, and he will take those risks.
He's got to feel nice about having those 2 front wood lines, and that'll be nice to easy. Eventually, I'm sure he'll wall those in too. Just nice and comfortable right there. Meanwhile, I'm curious. We saw Wham's version of Golden Horde used to great effect against the French. Curious how they face off against the Macedonian dynasty.
Now, getting a little bit of Macedonian on the board, though, we don't really know how they face off against anything, because again, people don't let them through. So, Macedonians getting their Hippodrome, not a big surprise here, as we know those horses, when units are free, they are just so much better. Puppypaw pulling off of gold completely here, he's got the gold he needs, and now with the Hippodrome coming out, you're gonna get a very aggressive opponent who's gonna be up in your face and ready to respond to most of what you've got. Puppypaw, he's playing a civ that usually they don't necessarily like playing against a horseman play, which is something we will be seeing here, especially early on. The trades coming from Macedonians could just be a little bit too much for Golden Horde to handle, but that's just a theory. We're about to find out, because Cannon the Dorgoods is the weapon of choice here.
Yeah, no surprise. This is one of those fun instances where there are certain civs in Feudal Age where you could almost go either or landmark. There's different builds you can do with different things. Then you get these two civs. I mean, Khan and Torgoods, I don't think I've ever seen anything but that chosen at this level of play. And the same could be said about Imperial Hippodrome for Macedonians. I just feel like that's just the play. I don't think I've ever seen the other, the winery. It just doesn't make sense. When you get the free units and they're so good, you might as well. There's just no reason not to here. Meanwhile, though, we got about a minute left for Puppypaw to get up in age. LucifroN's going to beat him up to that age by a couple of seconds.
And with this age up, you just expect to see action. Already with the resource split, you can predict what we will be experiencing here with already enough resources to get that first horseman out the moment the age up comes on through. And quickly, it is clicked. The next one also will be a very easy pick to get. But now, Puppypaw's response, that is the big question mark. Are we just going to see a ton of Puppypaw action in terms of the cavalry, or is he actually going to go for, and I say this, but he's already going for that nice little barracks with two villagers here, getting ready to go for the deer.
Oh, you mentioned it might be non-stop action. You know, leave it to Puppypaw, man. He's the kind of player who definitely will take advantage of this. Just immediately spreading out the deer, every little advantage. He will spare no expense to try and get the edge over LucifroN. Fun to see that little bit of micro. You might as well, if you have the APM for it, you might as well do those little plays like that. Every little boost, stacking little wins. I've said it ad nauseum today, but gotta get those little wins where you can get them. Meanwhile, that first horseman is out and the race is off as he tries chasing down the scout. Might get a couple pokes there.
Yeah, getting a few pokes here is already going to be nice and helpful because you're forcing the scout to just retreat and not actually see where your next horseman is going to land. And that's usually where this might come in clutch. And we see our horseman getting a bit of connection, and that connection is called a villager. Bodies on the floor, he says, as the dead villager lies down. But now this just means a nice pick off here for Mr. LucifroN. He just needs to keep this up. Now, the problem is, with a little bit of a poke on the horse, it doesn't feel as great because the spearman numbers are going to steadily increase here, and soon enough the cannon Dorgoods are going to provide that raiding force that is pretty hard to handle. And the villagers being this far out on the deer, you don't necessarily want to have a Khan in your face that is constantly providing that pressure.
Spears popping out here, not too soon either. With the horsemen coming right up upon them, they'll be able to scare him away. At this point, we kind of, in every series and in every game, but especially as a series as well, you kind of wait for the first couple minutes for it to present itself, because you know what you might want to do, but you also have an opponent on the other side. Sometimes, imagine like you wouldn't play tennis without looking towards the other side of the court, right? You got to know what your opponent's trying to do, what they're going to go for, and that's going to dictate how you respond as well. You can't just go in and you like to be able to play your game, but you can't always. You have to react to what the opponent does. So the game has to present itself as it does a little bit here. It looks like we're going to be all about the feudal aggression to start, as a unit dies in the base of LucifroN, trying to get that villager. That was really close, actually. Didn't quite get there, though.
Now, losing I believe that was the Khan, and losing the Khan this early on feels pretty rough, because you needed that to be that constant raiding force. Now you have a bunch of Torgoods and nothing for them to surround. So these guys are now just going to be your chunky horses running around and not really the ones doing damage. But Puppypaw, he is the one pushing forward while at the same time going to castle. himself. 'Cause as we can see him with that resource split, he's making plays to take risks and get the resources he needs, but the horses are in position and they're going to get a pretty decent engage here. Villagers need to back off, and he's already got the support units in position here, but you can see he's not cancelling yet. He's not ready to lose this commitment just yet, but he's about to, as another villager going down, and another one most likely too, but he doesn't want to lose all these horses, all just for a villager kill. Backup has arrived, but this was so costly. LucifroN looking pretty disgusting right now, with him going to Castle Age after all this aggression himself.
That was pretty brutal. Even the boar got in on the action on that one against Puppypaw. That just did not feel too good. Meanwhile, he will try and corner this area again. He's going to try and get those. The tricky thing is that with fast units, they just pop in, pop out, and in the end, LucifroN's going to walk away without really losing too much for the gains he just had. The destroyed value, look at that right now. If you look at the bottom left corner, 355 to 65. That kind of gives an idea of how lopsided that engagement was.
Now, with LucifroN here, he is doing his best. Oh, Golden down the base. I was going to say he's going to do his best at taking control of this, but he gets... It's a safe position. It's a safe position. LucifroN knows what's best. He knows the counterattack may follow, and he doesn't want to take any risks. But now, just going to be present on the map, ensuring that the army is pulled towards the base of Puppypaw, while he needs every bit of time to age up himself. And this is usually such a pivotal point of the Castle Age. You need to force your opponent to be on his side, because otherwise he's going to be in your base, ready to attack you. Now, the issue is, he might run a little bit low on resources pretty soon. And Macedonians, that transition is not as smooth as you'd want it to be.
Yeah, a lot of the food for him is spread out too. You got the deer in the south, the deer in the far north corner, and you got some berries scattered here and there. There's not a lot of obvious places to move towards for food. He's going to have to spread wide to get that. So that is going to be a concern here, and that's definitely going to slow him down a little bit as these units continue to let the spears chase them back and forth a little bit. Meanwhile, Puppypaw quickly moved up to Castle Age as well, about 60 seconds remaining on that. And then we will see how this is going to pan out, because so far I feel like LucifroN's done a pretty good job of getting some damage in. A couple Vil kills, able to beat Puppy into Castle Age. And so far we're seeing a pretty good showing of why Macedonians can be so difficult to deal with. Those units they get from the Hippodrome just feel like they don't die.
Now, with these casualties following all around the map, the Hippodrome units are great, and they're just showing us time and time again why Macedonians is such a force to reckon with that Hippodrome. But the follow-up unit has joined, and that is our Radari. So the Radari now going to be trying to collapse on a few of these spots, and honestly, they are pretty good at that, as they look for a first bunch of victims here. That tower not really reinforced with things that can actually handle a Radari, with only Castle Age coming in now, but the resources are stacked and Puppypaw is ready to get those Castle Age units up and running. Oof, but the Spearman getting a pretty nice pick off yet again. Khan dies, he dies.
Now, historically, we used to just type GG in the chat after that happens, but I don't know if that's the same etiquette here with Golden Horde. You know, it's a different age. Meanwhile, though, losing the Khan and now LucifroN continuing to do more damage, winning these little engagements everywhere. This is just a rough spot. And again, look at the destroyed value again. 910 to 185. That gives you an indication just how lopsided these fights have been to start. Meanwhile, losing even more under TC fire, and LucifroN just doesn't even mind the TC fire. He's just going to continue to just shred through things.
And these guys just don't feel like they want to die under the TC now. And this is where Golden Horde sometimes just doesn't take off. It's when they are constantly raided under that town center. And that town center is just not able to take this fight too easily. Another villager falling, and him realizing this was enough of a loss. I'm not going to be taking it as commandingly as my brother, but LucifroN, he came in with a very different strategy. The Macedonian one with Radari. And now we see why it is constantly banned, but just a masterful play here by our Spanish brother.
Yeah, there's a reason this one in particular has been not usually let through. And within 12 minutes, that one's decided. You can see how lopsided things got once he got to Castle. He was kind of behind militarily by the numbers, but once he had Castle Age, he just exploded. I mean, look at the military value lead, just the shift right there. It's something.
And you can all see these small mistakes. A lot of people might say like, okay, so Macedonians, they have all these units, they're very great, they're just too much to handle. But at the same time, you have to look at the things that Puppypaw may have missed out on or may have misplayed here and there. So with these little villager pickoffs, the Khan is constantly dying under the TC here. Those are massive losses. And at this level of pro play, it's so easy for small mistakes like that to completely throw the game to one side. Even a situation like here, where you can just slide in and it was already over by this point. You cannot make these tiny little mistakes, not at this level of gameplay. And
they add up
now
very
we
quickly.
see why.
Yeah. Those mistakes can add up very quickly when you let them, especially when you make multiple in a row. It can just really come back to bite you. And especially with a civ like Macedonians, it's like, man, the punishment was there and it was swift. But as all professionals do, they after a loss, you take it on the chin and move on and try and win the next one. So we go on to 4 Lakes, where we get a really good choice here from Puppypaw, I think. He's got Knights Templar on a hybrid map going against the Tugalak or LucifroN. What do you make of this?
I am happy to see that we got a Zushi ban on water instead of the KT, because it shows us again, pro players are still regarding KT as that heavy, powerful civilization, even on water now with the nerfs that they've got. It definitely helped their case, making them not unbeatable, but just really hard to beat. Taklak, though, their bonus is also getting removed. I don't know if this is too much of a hit for them to take on KT, because before they were able to take on KT on water. Now, is it still going to be the same? But I feel like 4 Lakes, it has a lot of outplayability. So often your movements are going to dictate whether the game is, I mean, you can say this for anything, but with civs, the civs matchup is not an auto win or loss. You can outplay your opponent with the strategies that you go on. If you dock them and they don't see it, or if you double dock and they don't see that, or just outplaying on water time and time again. So this map specifically, you have your advantages, but at the same time, it comes down to the player constantly, even if they're equally matched like this.
Yeah, both these players are pretty evenly matched overall, I would say, too. It's going to be an interesting one. And, you know, the tricky thing with 4 Lakes is, again, like each corner being a different lake, you got 2 on either side for yourself, your opponent. Vision becomes very important. And that's something I've noticed a lot with hybrid water maps, especially, is that you got to kind of be able to look both ways at the same time in many ways, right? You got to be able to be watching what's happening on the land, watching what's happening on the other corner. And these guys are really good at doing that. But even at this level, you'll see some water maps, it's kind of hard to watch both. You'll see a demo ship slip in, blow up all your archers. You'll see, you know, different things can pop up. It's hard to keep track of it all. And I think that's why, in general, lower level players tend to not enjoy water as much, because it is higher difficulty just to play, just by the nature of how it plays out, because of all those little details you got to keep your eye on.
The funny thing is, you're mentioning lower level players, and obviously what most people think of is like, oh, people on ladder, why are we
I'm talking about all of us, basically.
But the funny thing is, when you go outside the top 12, a lot of players opt out of these types of maps. They prefer the land maps because this is what they practice. There is an exception here or there, but a lot of the pro players are very much in that sphere. They are very much focused away from water and not opting to go for these maps. So even at the top level, the top of Conk 3, you still have people not comfortable with these strategies. Because, let's be fair, you don't want to play against LucifroN on 4 Lakes. I don't think anyone is like, hey, actually, what we're going to be doing, I am ranked 20, I'm going to be picking 4 Lakes against LucifroN. You'd rather go play a little Dry Arabia and hope that your raid does damage. But guys, let's go see. With this high rank, we have the two of the top players. They're going to be facing off on a map that both of them are feared on. Let's go see who does the craziest stuff and takes the biggest W. Both of them going out to dock pretty early on. So that's going to be our yellow LucifroN on the clock. And our red Puppypaw making his way to the water as well. And I love the fact that the scout always goes with to make sure that you get the spotting on where the deep sea fish is, But in this case, for Knights Templar, this feels so much better because your villager just gets to keep on chopping without wasting any time.
That's one of the fun benefits of KT indeed, able to get the wood right there on the shoreline. Meanwhile, first dock immediately being placed by LucifroN. He's wasting 0 time in getting those fishing ships ready to go.
Now, chop, chop, chop for the Knights Templar. As we can see, the stragglers getting depleted. But the beauty of the Knights Templar, guys, look at that villager split at the top. As you may see, there was 0 villagers on food there. And we have 43 food per minute. That is the beauty of the Knights Templar. These boys, they don't need you to get food. The wood provides the magical food from the skies, just like the magical drop-off from the skies. So it allows you to keep on producing villagers even when you're just getting your dock ready.
Both players opting to go for the left side lakes. Is that, I wonder if like if everyone goes to like the same corner lake, because on this map, when you spawn on 4 lakes, it always feels very, very similar. Like you always have TCs in the same spot, usually one in the northwest, one in the southeast. Does everyone go for the south or in the western docks? Does anyone ever go for the northern ones? I feel like more often than not, you see everyone start on one side. I wonder what habits people form with that.
Yeah,
both players opted to go for the west side this time.
This might be a 50-50 in terms of spawn, but when you look at the map, you can usually judge more or less which one will be closer. And the reason they go downwards is because your villagers most likely spawn at the bottom of the TC anyway. So it's that 1 second less walking time that start adding up. So I think this might also play a big role into them going for the south instead.
That's kind of exactly what I was thinking, you know, like you're kind of already you're like just inclined based on the way the game starts to move that direction because your villagers are there. It's a little bit closer. It always feels a little closer on that side. I think there's something to that. It'd probably take a really fun scientific study to actually parse out exactly the tendencies of people on this map, but I feel like there's something there. There's something there. Meanwhile, both players, of course, because they're going for fishing, are going to be a little slower into the feudal age. We're already almost 3 minutes in game, and both players still a little ways away.
Now, with the amount of fishing boats that you can pump out with Knights Templar, it does feel pretty nice, especially because of the natural transition into maybe making the play on water. You don't need to pull off of wood because of what we mentioned about the food. So, all in all, I'm loving this for Puppypaw. Tuklak Dynasty, they are great in general. And we do see those fishing boats counting as military there on the UI, but guys, don't worry, it's just because they're the spicy variety. And that secondary dock coming from LucifroN telling us that he wants to make sure he gets no surprises with Puppypaw maybe coming for a sneaky counter dock.
I don't blame him for putting a second dock right there. Sometimes you'll see people go for the other dock as well, especially a little bit later. I'm sure LucifroN will eventually add in some fishing ships on the other one on top of what he has down first. But I think it's smart to secure the one you have, get a little more vision, get a little more information, make sure that you don't lose your initial investment. That's key here. If you lose that initial investment, things are going to go south very quick. Meanwhile, not much of a surprise here at all. Knight's Hospitaller is being upgraded in for Puppypaw as the age up. 45 seconds left on that. That comes in really quick. That's one of the fun benefits too of KT. Their age ups are just so incredibly speedy.
Now, of course, you want this because your villagers stop producing during this time, but it also means that your responses are really nice and fast. So when you see your opponent is going for a faster age up, you can quickly respond in suit. And LucifroN now slowly getting his own way up to feudal age, but he is not even going to start his age up by the time that Mr. Puppypaw is already done. But LucifroN getting a significant amount of fishing boats here. You can see that investment, how comfortable he feels investing into the boats. This is very risky, but it can pay off so quickly.
Yeah, that's keyword being it's a risky thing to play with. If it pays off, great, and we'll call him a genius. If it doesn't, then we'll probably be like, that was too risky to do, you know, you shouldn't have done that. You mentioned too, a little bit ago, like it's hard to pick just a winner based off of just the civ choice going into a game, because so much depends on, does this player notice this dock go up at this time? Do they clock this, that, or the other? Do they win this particular engagement? It's so hard to see, and so sometimes at this level of play especially, you have to be willing to take the calculated risks and then hope that they pay off. And sometimes you just need just a little bit of luck as well. We'll see how that fares for LucifroN, as he's got Dome of the Faith now halfway constructed. Meanwhile, the first Pilgrim also on the way to the nearest sacred site. How much is that getting, by the way? 70 gold? 75?
99.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a decent amount, especially on this map. You are getting that nice little gold trickle that you don't even need to think about too much. In the Knights Hospitalier, we see our first unit. Oh, our first 3 units in queue, and we have a landmass on our hands. And I like this. Getting the landmass is definitely a type of play that a lot of people are not ready for. Because when you play water, the focus is so heavily just, I need to play water, I need to win water. But now all of a sudden, you're going to need to think about, hey, do I have a response to when a unit arrives in my base? And right now, LucifroN is going to need to find a response. But those Knights Hospitalier most likely just going to want to deal with the dock, the counter dock that is on Puppypaw's leg.
I imagine that's right where they'll go to start things off. Meanwhile, we got a stable and an archery range in response from LucifroN.
And the Pilgrim,
almost there.
Yeah, Pilgrim spotted, but a wall in response. And I kind of like this.
That's such a fun play. That's such a unique play, and not something that I don't think I ever would have thought of. But seeing that, like, let me just delay the Pilgrims, make them walk the long way. That's really fun. Unfortunately for LucifroN, the Hospitaller Knight's going to say, hey, do you have a permit for this wall? And immediately decide to summarily execute that poor villager.
That is an EU villager putting up walls without permits. It shows you there are punishments.
Oh, the
but
scout
luckily it's an A move.
A move to
LucifroN.
intercept it. Puppypaw notices it and now clicks directly on it, but bought enough time, that might actually just save that villager.
And now the elephant in position here already. Oh, he's charging. Socketing, you may have cursed the villager. The villager is in danger. He stopped charging for a moment.
Responsibility.
Oh,
the scout
no.
trying. Man, LucifroN is microing out of his mind. Oh my goodness, he managed to save it. And I didn't curse it. I take full responsibility, but goodness, what a play. Man, we are seeing micro at levels hardly even seen at this level of play. That is amazing. And he's making his harassment the entire way home, trying to let the elephants get a hit on him. This is just incredible.
And now the Knights Hospitalier is the one who needs the hospital. And again, just that perfect micro from the scout. This is pure masterful play here from LucifroN, showing us again why he is such a force. And now we are getting a little bit of a remnants to when Taklak got released. Guys, do you remember when we got flooded with healer elephants and archers? Well, LucifroN has a little bit in store for all of us. And he's offering us a bunch of archers on the field, but this time mixing in a little bit of elephant action on the way as well. And that's the beauty. When you're playing against spears, you don't want to play against spears, but you don't mind playing against spears when you have the elephants in position.
I'm still not over that bit of micro. I mean, if ESPN had, like their top 10 sporting events every week, if they had like an esport version, this would belong at like number 1 or number 2 right there. That is just that was such an incredible play. And it sets LucifroN up for a very, very good feudal age now. He's in very good position. He saved that villager, so maybe some idle time lost. Now the elephant's on the field of play, and only a handful of spears so far, posturing very strongly outside of Puppypaw's base.
Oh, this just feels like the start of this last season where all the archers just gathered round and there was no counter. Because now with all this food income as well, it feels pretty good. Now the archers need to target fire very, very clearly. Elephant's a little bit overextended here, but you can see he knows exactly what to focus. Puppypaw has played against this enough. He knows how to counter it and quickly shows LucifroN this is not viable anymore. Remember that nerf we gave this a while ago? And a very costly experiment showing us that the meta is dead and we do no longer need to worry about the elephant strategies.
That's not going to dissuade LucifroN just yet. He's got 2 more coming out. Horsemen are going to see that. They're going to go for some of those archers if they can. Curious how LucifroN will respond to this setback, though. Man, the healer elephants before the patch were just simply oppressive. That was such a frustrating strategy to go. And it felt like everyone on the and their dog was playing on the ladder with that strategy at the time. It felt like every other game you were running into it. Obviously not as effective here anymore, as Puppypaw has so aptly demonstrated for us.
And now with the units he just lost, he's got to consider this is not going to be something that he can just replace and do again. These elephants themselves are going to need to go and try to find some damage. But Puppypaw is now given a bit more control back. He gets to just send his pilgrim out onto the map without any struggles. Those Knights Hospitalier healing up anyone who may need a hospital, as LucifroN also got his own little bit of healing. It just feels quite nice to be able to do so. But this melee composition showing us that you can't just go blindly into it. Horsemen from this side as well, not going to be easy to handle. Elephants are taking a very deep engagement, and LucifroN may have overstayed his welcome here, but luckily those two elephants don't get impaled fully, and they get to go home and get healed up yet again.
Yeah, kind of close there, but getting quite a bit of value. As far as getting to heal again, I don't know if there's going to be much value against the spears. But now some horsemen coming in. Open wood line right here for LucifroN. This is just an open door, just asking for some raids. Puppypaw threatens but doesn't dive the spearmen in time to defend them. Meanwhile, fishing on both lakes now for LucifroN, but also for Puppypaw. He also got some of the fishing eco upgrades behind all this as well. So his fishing is definitely popping off. You can see that in the number of food per minute. He's currently over 1,300, almost 1,400 food at some points. And that will propel him straight to Castle Age, Angevin Empire. In the queue, 40 seconds coming in. LucifroN still a little ways away before he can click up himself.
Now, luckily, when you are playing a water map, the food increases pretty quickly. And if he cancels the 2 spears in the queue, but he does not want to take any risks. He wants to make sure that he has the resources and the units to back him up if the attack lands. Because with that amount of horsemen, you are going to need to consider exactly that. That is a very mobile army that is about to try to find some damage, but the villagers will pull back in time. And no victims will fall just yet, I say, but might be cursing them, as those horses can just pivot to yet another spot.
A half-constructed wall, a monument of the great micro that LucifroN had. Also the good timing of Puppypaw. Pilgrims, though, unabated as they head towards their sacred pilgrimage. And meanwhile, man, Puppypaw just feels very ahead here. Economy-wise, he's got a lot of ships. A lot of fishing ships. But on top of that, I think he's just gathering very efficiently too. House of Learning coming up here for LucifroN. Meanwhile, Spears catching some horsemen out. Able to get a couple picks. Most of those horsemen a little battered running back home.
Now, this is still a pretty scary army, and the upgrades about to hit feels good, but now we have to keep in mind, Tuklak gets those upgrades almost instantly. I say that, but he still needs to click it, and they are quite expensive. Archer upgrade going to be coming in 5 seconds, plus 2 ranged attack, also 5 seconds. So you can see these guys are spicy, and they are ready for a fight. Puppypaw aged up so quickly, but Tuklak, they have a timing here, and they are using it.
Meanwhile, LucifroN is age 3, but his army is still mostly age 2. Those archers, however, now upgraded. Doing some pretty good effect, too, against the heavy spears. That's actually exactly what he needs. That's going to make these elephants look a little more imposing. Puppypaw queuing up some more upgrades of his own, trying to get his army up to snuff. Meanwhile, LucifroN's just going to keep pushing. He's going to really extend. I worry he's going to overextend, but I don't know there's anything in the vicinity that can actually challenge what he's got right here. Puppypaw is just hiding back and going to try and remass.
LucifroN now spending every bit of recall that he has. He now is looking for a very heavy timing attack, and he might just get it, but there's still a huge spearman mass, like you said. These guys are not going to be deterred too much by a bunch of archers, but in these numbers, they are still a pretty good threat. So Puppypaw not taking any risks here. You can see him just kiting backwards, ensuring that he does not overstay his welcome. But LucifroN does need to do a tech switch here. This is
so there's a reason.
I say that he's
There's a reason why he's backing up. He knows that he can. They're both just base trading at this point. So Puppypaw, knowing he can back up a little bit, pushing into LucifroN's base as LucifroN's elephants push into his. Basically, what we have on our hands is pandemonium, as there's 1,000,001 vills stuck out by the gold. Spears gonna get on that. They'll get a couple picks for that, probably. But not too much, though. Spears don't do that much to villagers. But meanwhile, man, this has just become a very, very messy fight. The villagers are just standing there. They're fighting the spears. I don't know how many kills he got. A couple, 3, 4?
No,
Spears are gone though, meanwhile.
Yeah, it feels like it's worth it. It feels like these spears are taking them down. That was the goal here, and over time, only 3-4 villagers for that. It feels okay in the end, but he needs a pivot, and he realizes getting crossbows at the speed of light. These crossbows cannot come quicker, and I believe that's only from 1 or 2 archery ranges. It seems that does not feel like it's going to be quick enough.
Yeah, it's going to take some time. 2 archery ranges, 2 barracks, a stable. Yeah, you can see the queue too, just a mile long into the distance, but can only produce twice at a time. It's the tricky thing with having a long queue like that is those resources are just sitting there in your production building, not doing anything essentially. So when you get bottlenecked like that, it gets really tough to start answering some of these fights. Elephants and elephant numbers starting to look a little thin. There's still a couple healer elephants, but man, the amount of heavy spears in the play by Puppypaw into a kind of a scary mass. 28 of them, 9 more in the queue, and archers following up as well. LucifroN just doesn't have enough crossbows to deal with this.
Now, that should be able to recover pretty quickly. Now, finally getting a little bit of wood income. I'm expecting that just to be spent on archery ranges as he realizes, hey, this is something I need. But the problem is the gold income has been cut off. He's got a ton of food, but he just doesn't have the gold to keep this production going. Now going for a cheaper unit, men-at-arms, to just try and get bodies on the floor, because you just can't let your opponent control every part of the map, except for the water, of course. Now, these elephants are trying to get into the base to just distract and at least give him a fighting chance here, but the heavy spears are going in for this. The front line, they are there, but they need to be very, very careful. Men-at-arms doing a decent job at being that front line, but the archers are doing such a good job at taking care of those crossbows, and LucifroN may have learned a lesson here on production buildings, as the number of crossbows just did not feel like it could keep up with what Puppypaw had on offer.
That ties up the series 1-1. Puppypaw using a very strong civ against another good civ, but taking the win here. And that'll send us to game number 3 with an even split. It's a good game from Puppypaw. I'm still super high on the micro from LucifroN though in that game. That was pretty crazy. But in the end, again, we've said time and time again, the micro plays are the most flashy, but it's the strategic plays, the economic plays that ended up winning the game.
And it felt like for a moment there, LucifroN had the strategic play in it as well. Again, we get to take a look at this beautiful outplay, and this is the problem with A-moving. I am a victim to it myself. The problem when you think, okay, confidently, we're just going to walk in and do the damage we need. This already set the pace of the game, but I feel like at some points, LucifroN just overcommitting there under the TC a little bit later after this. It felt like he was desperate to do damage when he didn't need to be desperate. The heavy spearmen just providing an insane amount of support there, and also feeling a little bit confident with those healer elephants, just taking us back to an era I think most of us want to forget about.
Yeah. I'd say with how many those are, I'm glad that they are nerfed. Let's just say that. I think they were a little ridiculous, especially as a feudal aged unit. A little crazy. They didn't really work here. They were okay in instances. I wonder maybe if it was not against, Knights Templar, if they'd have been a bit more effective. But against those heavy spears in particular, just not much that could be done. We can see the final fight right here. Just the back line getting shredded by the archers. The elephants unable to really do much as more reinforcements came in. That was the final look of that fight. But we move on to yet another match coming right up. Game number 3 will be on Dry Arabia. It's going to be Chinese versus House Lancaster. I am a little surprised to see, I'm not too surprised to see Zhu Shi being sniped out here by LucifroN. And I'll tell you why. I feel like head to head, you've got Chinese. He probably knows he's going to get Chinese as he goes in, because he's not probably going to get French. Probably won't let that in. So looking at Lancaster and looking at Zhu Shi, historically on Dry Arabia and on like Bald Land and some of those maps, when you get this pseudo mirror match between China and Zhu Shi's Legacy, they both go for the Pro Scouts game. And then what ends up happening is more often than not, it feels like Zhu Shi just kind of builds a little momentum and does it just a little bit better. Not every single time, but I feel like they get the edge. So I'm not surprised to see LucifroN say, I really don't want to deal with the matchup there being a semi-mirror matchup. Give me the Lancaster. let me do my pro scout things. Let's see how that pans out.
What's pretty surprising is that he was willing to play French into House of Lancaster. That was an active decision he made. He was like, hey, you might tower rush me or just spearman rush me and I'll deal with it. I would rather face that than dealing with Zushi. And that, I think, is the more powerful statement here. The fact that this man said, I am willing to play French into this. And I mean, wondering...
LucifroN's French is pretty good.
That's true. That's
good
true.
Enough against Lancaster, it's tough when you get in feudal rushed as a French, but they do have... LucifroN's pretty good with those aggressive civs.
I feel like even if you're pretty good with it, you still need to have a knight to be able to handle it. But again, LucifroN, he's his brother's Vortex. This man has probably trained him for every aggressive playstyle that could be coming his way. So as we see these two loading in, I want to see that barracks, ladies and gentlemen. Puppypaw, he's got the wood in the bank, but he's got the villagers on the food. And the food only. Do we have a barracks being built next to Puppypaw as we're looking at the yellow LucifroN? Let's go take a look. No, there's no barracks. This is just a clean...
Not yet.
Yeah, it's just a clean old House of Lancaster. Now, with China, they're going to get the gold they need anyway. And of course, you can just pull a few extra villages, get the gold you need for your first Imperial official, and it doesn't feel as worth it to most people here. But it does allow for you to just age up normally, and Puppypaw says that's exactly what he wants here.
We expect the pro scouts play, of course, as has been ever the meta for the last number of seasons now from Chinese. Lancaster, though, I think you make a good point about not going for the barracks there. China's going to get the gold no matter what. So are you really going to get enough value by slowing your own timing down to get out there? And the answer is probably not, especially if the spawn's not favorable or if you don't have what you need to get there, you might not get much value. So I think it's fine for Puppypaw here just to, play Lancaster without having to go for the Dark Age. That speeds his other timings up quite along. The question is, what are we going to get? Are we going to get that 2TC play again, do you think, from Lancaster?
I can see that happening, especially with the deer spawn that we've got to the back there. And I think this deer spawn, you can easily stop this from being pro-scouted, if that was the choice here. But you also most likely don't want to just play into a normal feudal game with House of Lancaster. They have a way of mostly countering what civilizations can offer. So with House of Lancaster, I can see this being a choice. And with him pulling off of gold completely, or at least pulling the villagers to build from gold, he's not gonna be looking at getting any upgrades. And most likely, this is where the question comes in. Is it just because we're going for that second TC? We already see the villagers moving to stone. So if it's 5, we have our answer.
Oh, what about 4? I think that still answers it.
You think
assuming the 5th one might be... The 5th one's probably building the lumber camp right now, or the mining camp, for all we know.
That's true. That's true. In a lot of times now, we've learned that House of Lancaster likes to do that 5 because it lets you get the manor, it lets you get that second TC, and now the question is it TC into manor or manor into TC? We've seen it being played 2 ways now, so I'm excited to see what Puppypaw believes is the right way, because what Puppypaw says, I'll believe. This man can coach me anyway.
Whatever Puppypaw does is what I'm gonna try and emulate.
See, this man knows everything. He plays this game more than most people in this world, and I feel like if there's a strategy to be figured out, Puppypaw is the one in the driver's seat, figuring out all the difficult questions along the way. But with the amount of stone you've got in the bank by the time you age up, you should be able to pop down that second TC pretty quickly.
It's going to set him up for a pretty good middle game, too. I don't know. I mean, if China gets into the pro scouts and goes for a quick castle, they could be kind of dangerous at a point. But we've seen this play out before, and it feels like Lancaster just can withstand that. Their eco is so good. So with that being the thought process, I just feel like it's going to be an uphill battle a little bit, LucifroN as Chinese, to really get enough value out of the pro scouts to keep up with the pace of a 2TC Lancaster.
Now, considering his first deer is to the back there, he's got a pretty safe deer for himself. He's got one to the side, and I feel like he definitely has them for free. This is not a position where someone is going to be able to shut you down too easily, especially if you go for the aggressive one first and then move on to a safer playstyle there. But there's a lot of food in the bank. He's got himself all prepared as we see all those villagers chopping away. Imperial official moving into position to supervise for that initial wood drop off. It is going to feel good. And we see that the first play is going to be the second TC from Puppypaw. And I would love to see what the paw decides. And he says right on top of the deer. And this makes a ton of sense. You want to capitalize on this position so well. And with it being on the wood line there too, it feels safe. It's a comfortable position to put yourself in. And he's related to the Wham, so he knows how to make a wall as well in need.
Yeah, this is an excellent spot for it. You called it right on the dot. This is right where he was going to put it, and he does. He even says he's there to take a look, supervise for a second. I'm sure the Lord will say, yep, this works, and move on. But yeah, very defendable. Deer back there, very safe, and it's behind your TC, down in the bottom corner. It's going to take a lot for LucifroN to do much with this. Meanwhile, instead, LucifroN opting for, obviously, the meta play of the pro scouts. He's got the scout number 3 right there popping out. They're going to be heading over to the deer. They're actually going to go for the close one first.
Now, we see very quickly a bit of a movement onto the deer, like you said. He wants to go for the close one, and this might just be to get the food there ASAP. As we see that first horseman coming out, let's take a quick look at his food situation. I just want to see what the sheep... So the sheep got snacked on pretty quickly. As you can see, Puppypaw just getting most of it. That tells you why this man is going for the close deer. He needs to get the food, and he needs to get it there now. So usually when you know that there's a threat of you maybe losing control, you don't want to take any risks, but he needs the food. And I mean, with the amount of scouts he's investing into it, it's not too much of a risk anyway. Now,
we don't often talk about we don't often talk about the sheep numbers because they've been pretty dead even. With the new changes to the sheep distributions on a lot of the maps, it's pretty easy to get your fair share. This one is quite the dramatic shift. 23-15, that's a pretty good skew. So the deer, obviously the timing of that affects that a little bit, as you mentioned. He needs that a little quicker. But yeah, now he's got the horseman on the field to play, dealing with that scout, but also has some archers coming out.
And I feel like this might just be because of the single horseman he's invested into. So this single horseman he's made, this horseman is going to force Puppypaw to say, hey, I need spears. The moment he makes spears, well, what are you going to need? Archers. And that archery range is now revealed, so he already knows that this is happening. Now, Puppypaw might ask himself, do I even need to invest in spears right now? Or is there going to be a heavier investment into this? He says yes. Do need spears. Horses could be plentiful, and then I might need to get a significant response. So now with the archer numbers from LucifroN, he is going to be able to land a bit of a timing attack, but Puppypaw, he is most likely going to get those yeomen out following pretty quickly afterwards.
Scout gets back with a little bit of health left. It's going to survive to scout another day. Meanwhile, archers moving forward just in time to see a tower being built right on top of that gold. Now, with the Lord of Lancaster right there, they're not going to be able to do much. Puppypaw will cancel it for the time being, and here comes some reinforcements now from LucifroN. There's enough forces here. This could be an interesting fight.
Oh, the Lords of Lancaster actually doing an amazing job at just being beefy. And taking down that first archer feels good. You now have enough time to put up the towers, but you do need to be careful here, as one of those lords are going to get picked off, and these other two, they're stepping a little bit far out for comfort. They're not going to get the opportunity to go and get healed up, and now the movement is going to be straight towards the tower. That's exactly where they're going. A little bit greedy here by not putting another villager on there, but the Lords of Lancaster are in position to try and support this. Now, a Hobbler in the mix or two, and this is going to deal with the archers, but their significant amount of horses is going to mean that these Hobblers don't trade as effectively as they'd want to.
Really good engagement from LucifroN right now. Puppypaw's trying to make the most of these Lord of Lancaster, but denying that tower not once but twice, slowing things down. Eventually, of course, it does get up, but meanwhile, LucifroN's still pushing in, still causing damage. Not making this very comfortable for Puppypaw, but behind this, again, that second town center is churning. 41-36 is the Vil split. So Puppypaw's going to just slowly start inching forward as far as Vil count. Again, takes about 6 to 8 minutes, somewhere in that range, depending on different civ factors, to get that payoff. So give it a little bit, around the 12, 13 minute mark, we'll start reevaluating just how good this looks. But meanwhile, LucifroN has a pretty good horse mass on the warpath walking around.
Now, with that manor, he's also got into a spot where the resources are going to be plentiful for a while, but Imperial Palace coming out, and Imperial Palace, it makes sense. You now have enough gold in the bank to be able to start your Lancer production. You're not gonna get your upgrades necessarily here, and I'm wondering what the plan is here. You see a lot of Hoblars, but you also notice I need to do damage. So me going castle, I need to either get an insane advantage or I need to have a timing here. And now 11 on gold. Let's see what that first thing is he gets. It does look like it might be an upgrade instead, as he's, oh, never mind, the double Lancer being queued up. And it makes sense, you want these horses in now. The horseman upgrade, it can follow. You are not going to engage into a bunch of spearmen anyway. So with this being said, he's going to go and find some villages that he can go and collapse on. He needs damage and he needs it now.
Yeah, horsemen are great and all, but they're not really a castle age unit, right? Whereas the Lancers are castle units in every sense of the word, and they come out prepackaged, batteries included. All you gotta do is send them, face them towards the enemy. So I think it's a good call to double up on these. Save the horseman upgrade for a little bit later. Use them to kind of keep scouting around, pick off some things as you find them, as we see he's doing right here. If you lose them, you lose them. The Lancers are what are really important at this point. And agreed, he needs to do damage, and he's looking to do so right here, trying to find that. But meanwhile, Puppypaw not slacking on the raids either. He's going to get a villager for his effort and just make things all the more difficult for LucifroN.
Now these Hobolars, losing them, it does feel pretty tough, of course, because they cost gold. So, you know, you're not going to have an unlimited bunch, especially when these Lancers arrive. And you can see those Hobolars, they're arriving, but against the Lancer is melting them. And now, with the horseman numbers, you still don't find a valid way of handling this. Now, spearman numbers, Puppypaw is keeping them up. He knows he needs to handle these Lancers, but the trades are pretty decent for LucifroN so far.
Yeah, he's been taking some good fights, especially against the Hobolars. See, they're just not able to stand up. Horsemen doing a really good trade right there. Meanwhile, Lancers are still walking around, getting picked away at slowly after raiding. Hasn't actually killed any of Puppypaw's villagers, though. So, if anything, he's down a vill from where he started this raiding campaign. Now starting to lose some of the Lancers and losing most of the horsemen. And now the military count's even. You're up in age, but Puppypaw is gaining economically by the minute.
And honestly, I feel like for a moment there, LucifroN traded so well, and then just kept committing to his own detriment. So now Puppypaw, he's been given a bit of breathing room. He's still able to pump out a bunch of Hobolars, and he's putting himself into a spot where he could just cancel all those Hobolars and go castle. So he has that option open to him between all of this, but he doesn't take that risk. Constantly just producing more and more, getting the Hobolars because they have pretty decent DPS in the grand scheme of things. And oh, you can see these scouts are still just trying their best at trying to get a few more deer there, because those Lancers, they are not never ending. The deer packs are going to be running thin. This was a heavy loss by LucifroN so far. And Puppypaw, he's still just pumping. He stopped producing Hobolars. Now time for that age up. And White Tower is going to feel really good when you can secure a significant portion of your base.
Yeah, this game is not looking good for LucifroN. He got his first Vill kill at about 12 minutes and 30 seconds in. Which is not great. He went Castle Age specifically to get ahead of Puppypaw and then to use tempo against him. Instead, what has happened is his aggression has completely stalled out. Puppypaw has withstood it and is now economically ahead and now matching technology with technology. So this is not going to be great. Once this White Tower goes up, Puppypaw is going to be in a very good spot, and that's why you see he's backing up, trying to take a fight in front of that and not go back to the White Tower. Let the White Tower stand, let the landmark get up first. And this is even here, even down in age, taking good fights against LucifroN.
And this trade feels crazy to think that this is an age-down army, just outmassing and outperforming. Hobolars going straight for the archers where they need to be so the spears can do the work. And even with the huge amount of lances, they're cleaning up the Obolars, but not fast enough for these Obolars to go down with the pure numbers that Puppypaw has. Now, the food per minute is telling us a story of a struggling LucifroN and one that has run dry pretty quickly. Now, sure, a poor little scout has paid the price, but now with the age up hitting, Puppypaw has enough gold for one upgrade, and he's decided that that is going to be the Hobbler one, right?
Oh, no, so that's what it looks like. Those are spear ones? They've changed the icons recently. Now they're harder to see when they're so small.
Love that they just get to go back.
Regardless, this has been an incredible sequence for Puppypaw. I mean, this has gone just every which way his way. I mean, this is perfect. You don't usually want to take an engagement right as you're going up in castle, but in this case, Puppypaw took the engagement and won the fight with his army mostly intact. It feels like LucifroN is just getting picked apart, and these spears are just relentless. I mean, this has been very, very fortunate for Puppy.
These guys are decimating the poor lancers here, and you would expect the lancer numbers to just be overwhelming, but LucifroN is not able to keep up with this sheer mass of units from Puppypaw, and the Zergling rush has begun as we just see constant units pouring. Now is a thin red line making its way through, and those are just spears and Hobbelars making their way with a few yeomen in the mix, and I'm kind of excited to see how these yeomen will fare. Well, now, in very low numbers, but they're going to be able to respond to the archers from LucifroN that he's desperately needing when it comes to dealing with these spears in the mix.
We're seeing the effect of these Lords of Lancaster being in the military in the numbers that they are. Because not only are they themselves a meat shield, but they're helping all the other guys too. So I think that's kind of why, even though he's down in age, he had the right counters, but also with the help of those Lords Lancaster, able to actually pretend, as it were, that he was more of a castle army than he was in that feudal engagement. And now that he is in castle age, they're just helping all the more.
Now the numbers from Puppypaw just getting scarily high, and now with a mix of some crossbows in the mix, you have a composition that doesn't get counted out by anything that LucifroN is making. With 350 food per minute and 0 villagers on food for a second there, you know this is a man who's running dry and desperately placing a few farms around. Now, tower upgrades just sniping out that poor little lancer who just wanted to spot a villager that could die in his name. And finally, now LucifroN just feels that timing that he's missed completely. He needs to find a way to do something about this. And he's trying to make it right now. The problem is just the army is in position and the composition is disgustingly good.
The fear have dried up for LucifroN. He's got nothing behind this. If he loses this massive military, he's not going to be able to make it again. Puppypaw is very much in command of this game, and he's barely left his side of the map. He's just booming, essentially, and just daring LucifroN to do something about it. So every time LucifroN does, he just gets walled by the units that Puppypaw has, along with those Lords Lancaster. I mean, imagine it. Those 3 guys right there with the crowns above their heads are given all nearby units plus 15% health. So on top of this, his units are tankier. They're countering what they need to be countering, and he's got more of them. I mean, it's just a triple combo right now, and Puppypaw has just an easy road to victory from what I'm seeing here. He's got more vills, more military. He doesn't really need the rest of the map until he decides he needs it. But right now, he's happy just to fight right in the fields in his base.
With that second TC ticking non-stop, there's nothing LucifroN can do to catch up with this. He's invested so much into getting those farms up and running, and you can see with 8 villagers on the farms, it's still not the transition you were hoping for. 1,400 wood in his pocket. You know this is a man who's desperately trying to trade effectively, focused on the army rather than the transition behind the base, and everything is falling flat on its face. LucifroN giving it his all, but realizing maybe next game instead.
I think we have discovered in fullness why House of Lancaster is usually being banned by most of these players, and on full display there. I just feel like the ability to go for the 2TC with the Manor, with the Lords Lancaster buffing up your military, taking some good fights, less than 20 minutes in, Puppypaw has win number 2 under his belt. That was a really dominant performance by Puppy.
Puppypaw is looking like he was born for this, just absolutely taking down anything that LucifroN throws at him, being able to respond and read it. How long do I need to stay in feudal? When can I realistically transition to castle without dying? He understood the units, he knew exactly what to build, and surprisingly with that Hobbler play, he was able to calculate this is when the transition hits, or this is when I get on top of the archers, this is when the lances are actually going to out-damage me. But apparently the math just checks out as more sticks against one stick calculate more damage on one singular stick unit. So a lot more spears on those horses than poor LucifroN could do with his limited lances he had. Because you can see the moment these guys connect, they are just working like the Onabugeishas, completely destroying everything, dying quickly, but still doing a ton of damage.
Well, we move on to a match point game in favor of Puppypaw, and LucifroN's got a bit of an ace up his sleeve here for Baldland coming up. He had either Byzantines or French. Pick your poison is basically what he says to Puppypaw. Puppypaw goes to take his French. So LucifroN's French versus Puppypaw's Delhi. That will be interesting. That will be an interesting matchup.
We've seen Delhi quite a bit on Baldland, though.
Yeah, that's my one thought. That's my one thought I've had, as Delhi on Baldland is interesting. French should have no problems and no qualms whatsoever with running rampant on that map. I'm curious if Delhi is going to feel a little surrounded by how open that base will be for him. But we'll find out in just a couple minutes. Puppypaw with a good win there. If he loses this one to LucifroN, then we go to Lakeside for the finale. Question is, will we get there? We got 4 minutes before we get to figure it out.
Now, I've spoken to a few pro players about the matchup between French and Delhi, because French and Delhi, you would think, okay, Gaza Raiders, cheaper, they also have maces, that's pretty cool. So theoretically, they should be able to deal with knights, but knights, for a long time, they just outdo the Ghazis. Now, there is a little bit of an asterisk here. Ghazis get to go and heal up a little bit earlier than the knights do. So the problem is French gets that tech in feudal, so they don't have the same risks as you were playing Rus, for example. So Baldland, I still think that Civ to Civ, your French has that advantage, at least if given that bit of breathing room. But I'm really hoping the production can put up the bracket for the day so that we can look at, yes, they can. Guys, we have our scoreboard in front of us. Marine Lord in Group A, still absolutely decimating. Vortex getting that 1 forfeit and 1 victory, with Wham still being in his match against Kiljardy. And Kiljardy, I hear, is cooking recently. Gramps is bringing the fire.
Kiljardy looking pretty good. 3-1 on that against Goalie Deckel. Down a game to Wham right now, though. So Kiljardy going to have to make that a competitive series. A couple of big players there. I'm looking at Wham's 4-2, and then Anatan with the 5 with a 3-0 and a 2-3. It'll be fun. It's kind of fun. This is almost like a bingo card where you like got to fill it in as we go. You know, like we're only partway through. You can look at matches in Group B. Yep.
MSN taking a game off of Beastie, and now we'll see if he can do the same to B, because B, with his recent S tier victory, he didn't have the easiest time against Louis, but still looking dominating, because of course this is B. And of course LucifroN, he needs to solidify his spot by taking down the Paw, but he's had a pretty rough day as Numidan has looked absolutely dominant. Now keep in mind, he did play against Corvinus and LucifroN here today, so there's still a lot of big opponents that he has to face, but already off to an amazing start.
Again, I said earlier before this last series started, you can only play who's in front of you. If you start out going, winning all but one of your games in the first 2 series, that's pretty good. That's nothing to sneeze at this level of play. You'll take it where you can get, because all of these guys want to do really is get to the next round. Like nothing else really matters. You just got to make sure, especially unless you're like Marine Lord or Beastie or like Puppy, one of the top guys, you just need to focus on getting to the next round, trying to break into that top 8, that top 10, trying to get into that range is what you're going for. And like as Cow said earlier today, there's like 12 people in the top 8. So trying to be one of those 8 really is what you're trying to be. But we got about a minute before we hop into Baldland here. Should be a fun one. You guys are watching the Elite Classic hosted by EJC TV, Elite Classic number 4. That's the wonderful Whammon. I'm Soccerton. Thanks again to everyone viewing, everyone supporting the channel. We really appreciate it. And also a shout out to Cal, the production, and Vodka, our observer today. We are potentially on to our last game, or perhaps second of last. So either the ultimate or penultimate game. We'll find out here in about 20-something seconds.
Now, LucifroN on French, though, it's not something a lot of players would allow him to play. LucifroN has shown us his French is nothing to be scoffed at, and you can see it being a prior pick for him, his first pick over anything else. He says French is the way to go. So we're gonna see if he can put the lances where it matters, especially against someone like Puppy on his deli too. So Baldland, not a map that is too forgiving, especially if you start that snowball just gets out of control. Now, Dark Age shenanigans are unheard of in French versus Delhi, so luckily for us, we're just going to see a standard old early game with no craziness happening, so all we get to look at is just a bunch of sheep and these beautiful little spawns.
This is some time to talk about those spawns. There's nothing too crazy to note, besides the fact that we got 2 nicely placed berry patches for Puppypaw in the back. So nothing too crazy. If he needs food, he can go out to the back to go get that. He's also got a pretty nice gold up front, which will be dangerous. He's also got a gold kind of far in the back. Now, both players have exposed forward golds, and both players are going to suffer some of the same problems if the other decides to raid. You got to be mindful of that going both ways. Again, it's kind of like with a civ like French that is so aggressive. My analogy is it's like how you deal with a shark in the water. You got to punch it in the nose and slow it down. Like, that'll confuse the shark, slow it down, slow its advance. It might swim away. With French, not quite the same, but similar in that you got to punch them in the eco. You got to hit them too. You can't let them be the aggressors. We saw Puppy's brother Wham deal with this earlier as the Golden Horde. What'd he do? He raided the French. He raided their gold, raided their food, kept them busy on their side of the map so they weren't busy raiding in his base. That's kind of the key to dealing with the French. Now, that's a lot easier said than done. LucifroN obviously very well noted. His brother especially well noted for being extremely aggressive and very good with this civ. So Puppypaw does not have an easy one ahead of him if he wants to win this one here.
Now, the question is also about the food control. Now, you have to consider you run pretty dry very quickly, especially when you're making knights. So, pound for pound, you're going to get more Ghazi Raiders out. And this does feel a little bit risky in a lot of parts, but LucifroN is trying to offset that by already going out for the deer and grabbing it out on the map. You need this, because you know there's going to be a Ghazi in no time in your base. Tower of Victory coming out, though. And Delhi with the Tower of Victory, it's a little bit of a refreshing surprise here. And
it's
honestly,
cyclical, you know? We've gone back and forth. We've gone from days originally where it was a joke, the Tower of Defeat. Then there was that heyday a couple years ago where it was really good. Then recently it hasn't been good again until now with the patch. Now it's suddenly viable once more. It is, like you said, very refreshing to see it come back into vogue.
And seeing what he's going to be doing with the Tower of Victory, I'm hoping we can take a quick look for a lot of you who haven't seen what it does. It increases the attack speed of infantry by 20% when produced in the influence. Now, you get to produce everything within the influence, so your attack speed is going to be significant. Now, why is this so important? Well, when you're playing against French, you are going to be making infantry. You are going to be making spears. You are going to be making archers. So your attack speed will amount pretty quickly. And when you are the one moving out on the map, this is going to be so crucial. You know your opponent is going to be a hungry boy, and you can see LucifroN is pushing the deer as close as possible to that mill. He knows he needs to get this as close to the TC before the raiding begins.
The nice thing the Tower of Victory now also does is it also acts as a free blacksmith now for Puppypaw, so it's to save some time. Oh, we're being paused here for a second.
Take a quick look at those villagers holding all the wood, working so hard to make sure that they get their first production building out. Now, of course, when you're playing against anyone as Delhi, you want to get your stable out. But when you're playing against when you're playing against French, you want to get a unit out that can actually deal with a knight. And when you don't have an unlimited amount of scholars, this is actually not necessarily going to be a Ghazi Raider.
Saving the wood for the... I'm thinking of like the Tower of Victory changes still, and saving that wood for a blacksmith allows you to not have to spend it later, right? I mean, that's what, 150 wood you're just saving, which can immediately be placed instead into more production buildings, more units. In many ways, that's a really... Tower of Victory has gotten some big buffs. The changes are very, very good. It's... more I'm thinking about it, it makes a lot of sense why Puppypaw would opt to go for it here.
Now, we see that beautiful little French School of Cavalry as well. Going to be foretelling the tale of lots of knights. But what I really like about this from LucifroN is just the fact that he is capitalizing on every part of the map. We saw this the previous game with the Scout Micro. We saw this with every unit he uses. He knows how to use them fully. And now pushing the deer there is massive. You're just trying to expand or extend your lifetime with being able to stay under the TC when the raiding does begin. Now, Puppypaw adjusting and going for the Tower of Victory already tells us he knows that this in a straight up matchup is going to be French favored. So respecting that and going from there too. Now, we are waiting to see what the reason of the pause is. And it must be big, because if your victory or your Tower of Victory is exposed at this point, it feels like your strategy is already wide open. It's like when you open in Dark Age with something specific and your opponent can just do something to respond to it. It feels kind of like that. So for Puppypaw to now be his opponent to be aware he might go for Tower of Victory, that's a pretty big advantage.
Well, I'm going to address the elephant that is not currently in the room, and it is that we are still paused here after a minute or two. My guess is that Puppypaw has pizza that just got ordered. That's my guess. I think pizza just arrived, and he must have just eaten a slice and sat down, and now we're back to it. Okay, pizza secured. Oh, nope. Had to go get some sauce or some ranch dip for it as well.
Just a little bit of a teaser for us here. You can... Oh, hello? Oh, hello?
The ranch has been secured. Back. We now have the pizza to dip. They're dipping for the pizza now. We're good. Everything's great. He got his drink. We're ready to set and go underway. Okay. I have no idea. I really would love it if that was literally what had happened if Puppy had, pizza arrived. That'd be absolutely hilarious. And it'd be such a Chad move to pause the game for that, but I'm sure it was probably something much more serious. Anyways, we get back to the action. We're 4.5 minutes in what could be our last game of the day. Match point for Puppypaw. He needs to win this one, but no easy task. LucifroN as the French with the first knight on the field, heading up the hill, heading across the map towards the base.
That knight is going to be so pivotal in this, because this is going to keep that spearman busy, or if we're still finding out if it's a spearman or not, but we know that it's a blacksmith as we see some upgrades, but the spearman follows suit right after. And of course, when you have the spearman out, it's going to feel great. 3 spearmen, he says. We need a lot of these. But it still puts LucifroN in a spot where he doesn't feel threatened, at least for a while here. Now, Puppypaw, he doesn't have fast research speed either, because of course with the Dome of the Faith, you get more scholars. You're also going to be able to heal your units a lot easier. So LucifroN going for 2 knights and 2 knights only, and switching to archers instantly. I love this. He's going to be the aggressor, and he's already looking at pushing across the map.
Spears ready to gather to fight these knights. Not enough of them though. 2 do not counter 2. It's not a 1-for-1, as we all know. 1 spear dropping without much of a fight, really. That's kind of just a nice pick for LucifroN early. You can get those spears without even fighting for them. Oh yeah, all day.
Now, with this access to food, it just feels like LucifroN is gonna be able to produce as much as he needs for as long as he needs. Now double broadaxe also coming in. He wants to make sure that this fuel game is upgrade even. But now with the blacksmith upgrades going to be starting to come in, we do see that the priority here is the +1 ranged attack. Because of course, you know your opponent is going to go for archers. Knight's archer is just such a staple comp of the French. So with LucifroN investing a bit into those upgrades, it might affect the knight production, but he just makes sure that he has an extra bit on gold to constantly be able to produce. Now, where does he attack? Puppypaw already walled up, getting himself ready for any type of aggression. And the question is this something Delhi really wants to do? Is Delhi the one that wants to sit back and let the French dictate the pace of the game when they have faster villager production, when they have unlimited access to food, and you are the one kind of sitting on the back foot? It feels like Delhi is supposed to be the playmaker here.
Yeah, it feels bad is kind of the answer. I think in an ideal world, the answer is you're right. It would be nicer if Puppypaw could move out and take more control of the map as it is. So far, he's not really able to do that. He's trying to mass up enough spears to deal with this. 5 knights already on the field. Maybe Puppypaw is just trying to be a little more cautious, wall at sides, doesn't want to get caught unaware. But I agree. It feels like he's kind of letting LucifroN dictate the terms of this game, which sometimes that just kind of happens, but it's not what you really want. Right now, knights just standing on top of the sacred site, and now moving closer towards the open front door of Puppypaw's base. He's got a lot of upgrades coming in. He's got wheelbarrow already in. LucifroN's getting that right now. I feel like Puppypaw is trying to slow things down a little bit and just bulk up before taking any big engagements.
And what I love about this is LucifroN is just happily sitting there getting the deer. Now the Ghazi Raiders are going to make this a bit harder if they dare move out of the base, but these guys are going nowhere. They're not planning to. You can see just standing there at the base. The one thing about this build with the Tower of Victory, you now don't need any gold because you're not making any scholars. You technically do if you want to keep making them, but in Puppypaw's case, he's not investing that, so every bit of resource he gets is going into straight on units. And with 11 archers coming in, I still feel like this is a very dangerous spot to be in. We have +1 melee attack and +1 ranged attack coming in now for LucifroN. This just means these guys are going to hit like trucks when they arrive.
Yeah, you mentioned not making any more of scholars. In an ideal world for Delhi, they've got one sacred site under wraps to give them that passive gold. Here, no such dice. There's no way LucifroN's going to give a sacred site to Puppypaw here, which means you either mine the gold yourself or you get no scholars. And as we see here, he gets no scholars. So he's bulking up. He's sitting in his base. That means Puppypaw really needs to do something with these units. He's sending out the Ghazi Raiders right now. Ideally, he'd probably wrap around the back of LucifroN's base and give him a punch back. But the spears in the front are mostly just being defensive and aren't really posturing to do anything else.
Now, Puppypaw here is just living his best life on Ghazis and slowly thinking about what he needs to do to get this on his side. The problem is, when you have 10 Ghazis roaming around, they are going to be slippery and they can do some real damage. LucifroN knows this, as we can see him walling up very quickly, desperately trying to get this up. But villagers not fast enough and they do need to retreat, so the Ghazis are going to have a field day as they get 3 surrounded here. Wall gets cancelled and villagers will all make it out alive. Ghazi's taking a significant amount of fire here from the TC, but luckily with the +1 range armor, it doesn't feel as scary.
Boy, that what felt like a defensive structure almost started feeling like a tomb for a short moment there. LucifroN quickly and smartly able to delete that portion of the wall, get those villagers out. Definitely looked a little awkward though, didn't it? Not quite where you want to be. Those villagers a little dicey, but again, didn't lose anything. And so at most, Puppypaw wins a little bit of idle time against LucifroN, but that's about it.
Now this also gives a bit of information here. This gives the information that, hey, this man is willing to move out of his base with his Ghazis, meaning he is going to raid food. He's going to be a lot more active in this. And with that, I believe that LucifroN is just going to pull back all the villagers to ensure they don't get picked off here when now he's the one pushing out. This is where you can easily lose the game by just overextending with your vills and allowing your army to not be there to support them. And that's exactly what position LucifroN is putting himself into, as we now see him chasing back towards the Ghazis, but these archers are very much exposed, so if those Ghazis turn, this can be devastating. But the other group, coming from the other side, he wants to make a sandwich. But you can see the villagers are pulled back. He's not going to put them out too far to take any risks.
The best thing that Puppypaw is doing here is he's delaying things. He's slowing the French down. Again, if the French aren't in your base rating, that's almost like a win unto itself. So having his units kite all the way back to the western side of the map is actually a really good thing for Puppypaw. Now, ideally, he'd love for them to kind of not be in the right spot to defend what he's trying to do now, as he looks for some resources, isn't going to find any vills home. They're all kind of centraled right now, not out and about. They're being protected by LucifroN, who's being very cautious not to lose any by exposing them unneededly.
Now, the 4-villager lead does feel pretty nice for LucifroN here, but of course, you still want to try and find damage as the French, and he hasn't been able to pick off anything of Puppypaw. Puppypaw has played it safe, not allowing any shenanigans to go down, but now the red dots are everywhere, and Ghazis, they are the ones trying to find the damage. Now, luckily for these walls, they will provide refuge, and the archer numbers, they're enough to deter the Ghazis, but not really enough to kill them just yet. And we do see double alarms going off as one of the Ghazis go down. And now Arch is a little bit extended, but the Spearmen are in position to now support them. And now this becomes a lot scarier for Puppypaw to move into, because the Spearmen numbers are going to increase, and he's got nothing to deal with that.
One advantage that Puppypaw kind of has is that these knights are kind of costly, whereas Puppy's units are much more cheap. Meaning Puppy has an easier ability to produce a little bit more military units than LucifroN does. They're just not worth as much, but what that allows him to do is to spread out a little wider, poke from multiple angles a little more quickly and efficiently. It lets him attempt to out-micro LucifroN. For the most part, LucifroN's not taking the bait too well and is keeping his mass kind of together in a scary force that is now kind of pushing across, but man, a lot of spears and a lot of units from Puppy. He's able to really spam out a lot, and this is what Deli does really well. As we see the knights trying to chase the Ghazi away. More Ghazi coming from the side, going to land on some of the archers. The spears are mixed in there, so the knights can't really get on top of this. Does Puppypaw have enough value here to get some damage done, or is LucifroN and his knights able to hold this? It looks a little tenuous. The archers taking a lot of damage from that, and then the spears are just too much. The knights do not want to poke into this, but they're going to try. Back and forth they go, but not much.
These archer numbers are getting thinned out significantly, but LucifroN is able to replenish most of these. Ghazi's doing an amazing job at this, but you can see how the focus fire is making a difference here. LucifroN thinning out that spear herd so much, and they don't have the legs to catch up, but loses focus for a second and loses almost all the archers in that moment of focus loss.
Last of the archers almost down, a couple spears still remaining, but the numbers of knights looking very formidable. They're going to turn around with some spears in their ranks as well. It's a pretty even game back and forth. Again, Puppypaw with maybe less value in his army, but more units on the field. Those knights, though, become more and more of a problem. He needs to spam out a lot more spears.
And those spear numbers from Puppypaw was formidable, but not to just keep doing, just to throw them at the army and call it a day. His food running dry. LucifroN, he's also in a little bit of an awkward food situation pretty soon, but he's extended that food for as long as possible. And now LucifroN, he is the one in the driver's seat, and all of a sudden, Puppypaw is the one who needs to be careful here. The spear numbers back up, but also not where they used to be. So now these knights are going to have an okay time fighting into them.
The tricky thing too is with the chivalry, every time they're chasing and just kiting back and forth, they're healing a little bit as well. So the value that's being gained by these knights taking a little bit of action and then backing away is just massive. Just think about it. You're getting extra knights out of your knights. You fight a little bit, lose a little bit of HP. For a knight, it's a resource they can spend and then recuperate. For most of these other units, they have to go find a scholar to heal them, which where's the opportunity cost of that scholar not helping to research more upgrades. So really, the composition for LucifroN looks pretty good here.
Now, what's pretty funny is the fact that even though Puppypaw has pro scouts, he's still going out on the deer. This is how desperate he is to keep these numbers up and keep the fight going. And this is where things turn into, hey, my opponent is going to be making mistakes. He's going to be greedy. He's going to overextend. If this knight mass just moves north, Puppypaw is absolutely cooked. So these things are so easy to slip up with, and this is where at the top level you might take a risk that can cost you the game. But this army now pushing forward, they are looking for blood, and honestly, there's not much blood to find here for now, but he might find a bunch of stray villagers on this wood line as he's about to head there. Ghazi's not really in position to do anything about this. He does spot the pro scouts, and this should actually deter him from going to the north there, because now he thinks, oh, the deer's just gone, because, hey, he's picked them up.
This is looking like a formidable mass of archers. I would say this is almost a critical mass of archers. There's only about a 1-for-1 for spear for every knight on the field. That's not quite enough when you've also got archers picking at those spears. These knights are about to have their free reign of wherever they want to go. This is just an insurmountable number as is right now. Puppypaw needs to find an answer to them, and I just don't think he's got enough at the moment.
And the archers just focus firing on what they can before they go down. Knights being very careful about not taking too much damage into the spears here. But you can see LucifroN knows he's ahead. He just needs to keep fighting this fight. Access to the food, very, very questionable right now. And with that, LucifroN is already prepping himself for that farm transition, as he's got 900 food in the bank. And it feels like we've watched this before. But Chivalry making big difference here with the knights. Like I said, they get the double value of their existence here, just being able to heal back up and take the fight yet again. You can see wood lines getting thinned out, and still no farms up and running, but they should be joining pretty quickly.
Fascinating that on one hand we have almost, I mean, I say almost no food. He's got 600 a minute, but it's flagging food. Whereas on the other hand, for Puppypaw, we have just no gold coming in. So an age up is just never going to happen. Meanwhile, for LucifroN, he's having he can't really afford to throw these knights away. He needs to make sure he's got a food situation. He can't just get caught flat-footed here.
Flat-footed. As these guys now diving under the TC. And the TC fire has shown us it is definitely a massive, massive help. Spears now needing to pull back here. Puppypaw trying to get his archer numbers up as well. Trying to snipe these archers himself, because he knows those are the only things standing between him and his spear victory. But 10 spears is not what you want when you're up against 20 knights, and LucifroN feels super confident diving under this TC now, as most of the Ghazis are not here either, and they don't mind taking a good fight under this TC.
This feels like game. There's just no answer to him. There's just too many knights, too much value on the field. Puppypaw has just no gold, so no real way to get to another age to get some crossbows or some other answers out there. He's got to answer these in feudal age, and there just is not enough production of spears to do that. There's just no way for him to do so.
Oh, the villagers, they are running with wood in their hands, lumber, just trying to get back to the base, trying to produce anything, but the Ghazis finally arriving, not really going to provide the refuge that these vills need, and everyone gets surrounded. Knight numbers not slowing down. LucifroN nowhere near going for Castle Age, as he's just making more units and very comfortably staying under this TC. With all the fire at them, he does not mind. 8 villagers down. It feels like it's been a lot more, but it's
really
pretty
does.
soon. Yeah. I'm surprised he's only been able to kill like single, now double-digit villagers. He has kept himself alive pretty well here, but the mass is not slowing down.
I mean, look at the destroyed value, though, on both sides. 12,000 resources, 9,000 on the other. It's been a lot of damage between units, but yeah. This one, feeling like LucifroN is starting to, ever so more by every minute, edge out a victory on this one. I don't know how Puppypaw is going to bring this back. Losing villagers now left and right. The knights persist. There's only 13 of them on the field, but it just feels like there's 100 with the way they've been used.
Oh, and now a knight gonna be paying attention to all these little vills who've been spicy enough against that tower. Everyone falling like flies, villagers trying to fight their way in. You can see even the villagers trying to put up a decent fight. The knight just going to be able to take down everything, and Puppypaw just putting up a good show for the final moments, as he needs to be thinking about what is next for him here. LucifroN, I love the fact that he's out here on the map, chopping wood, getting food, trying to do absolutely everything to just stay ahead.
This has to be it right here. All of them are gone. With that, LucifroN is going to send this one going the distance. All 5. We are going to have to do one more game, I think, to decide who will come out on top this series, because I don't think Puppypaw is going to bring this one back. He might drag it out, but I don't think he's going to come back.
He's still floating quite a bit of food here, and not I don't think this is a situation of, hey, I'm thinking about the later stages. It's just a little bit of a bottleneck, and the bottleneck is in the wood. He's trying to produce as much as he can, trying to find an opening here. He feels maybe that he hasn't lost as much as he did, maybe thinking he maybe killed a bit more than he did. Or he's just giving it one last hurrah for that final push as he's making his way all around. And now the night numbers are so scary. They're not going to care about a TC. I feel like we're getting to the number of nights where they can just burn the main TC.
It's only 16 nights. It's not even that many. It's the crazy thing. I mean, it's a lot of nights in Feudal Age. I should not make light of what this is. It's a lot of nights for Feudal Age. It doesn't seem like, again, some of these big battles you see in like Castle Age and Imperial Age, it doesn't seem like that many. But when they're doing stuff like this, killing 36 plus villagers, yeah. I often wonder what kind of goes through some of the pro players' minds when they're clearly losing the game like this, and it feels obvious to everybody involved that that's where we're going. Are they just chilling, just thinking about next game? Because there's no coming back at this point, right? Like, there's just, everyone knows that.
It might be a stamina thing as well, but also a mental thing. I think, especially with the Canadian brothers, we see a lot of, like, holding on to the end of the game very often. They're giving it their all. But with LucifroN and Vortex, they're very quick to tap out when they realize, hey, I'm not going to be able to make a comeback here. So the Canadian bros, they fight to the bitter end. I've seen this.
They make you fight for it.
Yeah, they do. And it might just be a way to clear their head and go to the next game already in there, but at the same time, they put up a pretty decent fight at it. You saw, even in that, Puppypaw didn't just suicide his units. He still put everything together and tried to take that final fight.
Yeah, and I kind of like feel like that's something I could see making a lot of sense, right? Like, maybe it's kind of liberating knowing, oh, I've lost the game. Let me just make this as hard as I can just because it's fun. Like that, there could be something to that. I'm really curious. Next time I'm chatting with one of these guys, I'll have to ask them about that and what their philosophy on when to tap out is. But as it is, tie ball game, as we say in the States, it's 2-2. We've got a full series ahead of us in that we've got one more to culminate this best of 5 going to the 5th game. It's going to be on Lakeside with Ayubids going against Japanese. LucifroN was offering Mongols, instead is given Japanese, and Puppypaw throwing Zhu Shi out one more time and will be denied one more time and instead have his Ayubids coming up in just a couple minutes.
And we talked a little bit about how scary the Ayubids can be, especially on a map like this. Now, Ayubids recently got a change where they can go advancement wing without even touching the gold. So giving them an insane age-up timing and a pretty strong play on water, especially when you want to get control with a military boat and just take down whatever there is on the water. So for Puppypaw to get Ayubids here, this is still pretty scary. LucifroN, though, on Japan, you have a big question mark. What is the plan here? We see Japan time and time again going for the dock because, of course, the fishing boats are so much cheaper, but he's got this in mind. He knows what can come out of this. So for his sake of mind, I feel like he might be perfectly aware of this timing that might be upon him.
Makes sense. Oh boy, it all comes down to one more game. I always love when series go the distance, you know. Sometimes it's fun to have a quick, sweep. It feels good for the player to sweep your opponent, but for the viewers, I feel like going all 5 really speaks to just how good both these players are, right? Going back and forth and back and forth. There hasn't been a dominant player between the two. Both are very deserving of the points they're going to earn for this series. But we got 5 minutes before we start. 1 minute before we dive into our final game. We haven't seen Malians at all today. Banned. What other civs have we not seen today, Whammon? There's a couple of them.
We surprisingly saw Ottomans. I think that was a big one. The fact that we actually got to see it. Yeah, I think a lot of civs got airtime today, except for Abbasid with the recent changes. We saw a little bit of Abbasid creeping in last week, which was quite confusing, but now completely disappeared. I would actually be interested in knowing if any of the other series had some Abbasid action. But the rest of it, I think we're getting some consistent bans. Malians, again and again, even with the nerfs, it feels like they touch the Malians. They don't want to nerf them too much. They nerf them and they're still banned because people can find out, how can I still optimize every bit of this economy? That begs the question of how busted were they really when they were a problem?
I think that I am of the opinion that the last year and a half, Malians have been one of the best civs in the tournament play at this level. I feel like more often, maybe it feels like kind of anecdotal when I say it, but I feel like they have just been so good. I've seen them beat Zhu Shi time and time again, China time and time again, in some very contested pro scout maps. But even still, I'm not surprised to see them banned a lot. Yeah, we get Ayubids. We haven't seen Abyss today. We haven't seen Mongols today, but we've gotten a pretty good array of civilizations. As we dive into game number 5, our final of today in the Elite Classic 4 on EGC TV. We go in. We got LucifroN as Japanese in the yellow, Puppypaw in the red as Ayubids in the south side. What is with this map right now? Our map's a little wigged out.
Initially, I was like, what is this spawn? What happened to the map? And it just turns out the map is a little bit big.
Map's a little big.
I was like, how is he going to be able to place a dock down on his lake when it's spawned all the way to the left side?
There we go.
There we go. Guys, that was not a weird spawn. That was just a good old goofing from the map. Thank you very much. But now, both of them going for docks. No surprises. We've seen this earlier from Ayubids as well. They go for a dock, they get the fishing boats out, and then they're able to age up without touching their gold if they so pleased. But LucifroN making sure that on the Japan you get those cheaper fishing boats, so it's going to feel pretty good to have it this way. Now, of course, this is still shoreline fish, so you're not getting unlimited of it, and this is a very strategic dock to have. And House of Wisdom coming out now is telling us he's exactly thinking about what we mentioned. He wants to go for a quick age up, because you don't invest in the House of Wisdom over a fishing boat unless you have intentions of aging up.
Yep, Puppypaw woke up today and chose violence. And he's going to be doing that violence on the waterfront. A fun fact for you, too, on the Civ choice. The only person who's played ABBA, there's only one person, he's played so twice, is Kiljardi.
But everyone else got banned. Didn't we see earlier, an Abbasid? Oh, Abbasid! I heard Ayubid for some reason. Okay, Kiljardi picked it up. Nice.
Yep, and played it twice, according to what Cow was saying, so.
And Advancement Wing is coming out. Now, good timing, but LucifroN already thinking about getting gold himself. He's not over-investing onto the water, as we see a lot of people do. Getting those initial 3 fishing boats, he knows that this is the optimal amount that he can invest in before this starts getting dangerous. So, very reasonable here by LucifroN. And I'm really happy to see that LucifroN is adjusting to what Ayubids has shown us they can do. Now, the villager getting a little bit low here, but of course, when you are the Japanese, you're not gonna need to leave that guy out too long there anyway.
I like that LucifroN's adapting to what we see. And it's fun to see what we're watching here on this map with Ayubids is what the meta is. This is now the meta. It worked once. We're seeing it try to work again. And LucifroN adapting it, going, okay, if that's the case, I cannot afford to overinvest in the water. I know it's going to be contested. I know for sure 3 is safe. I can put them back in as well if I need to. I don't want to overdo it. And we do see the Coca Township coming up here from LucifroN. So expect some Shinobi in the near future, which is a fun choice here on a hybrid map.
Yeah, I feel like it's the only choice, especially when you're up against advancement here. You are going to need to slow down that dock because the dock is not slowing down for you. And Puppypaw is already putting himself in a spot where he's going to be able to make a ship in no time. So the moment the age up hits, ship in the queue, and now the play on water begins. So LucifroN, he's going to need to be able to deal with 1 or 2 ships, but he needs to get the Shinobi out to shut down that dock, because when that dock keeps on pumping, you just lose water completely. And you have to ask the question of, is it worth it to invest this much into water? A lot of players saying, hey, I'd rather go 2TC, but Japan, not really a civilization that does that too easily.
On 2TC kind of plays back into Ayubid's hands again, right? They just take some tempo, go fast castle, and start storming your base. I feel like you're kind of caught with Ayubids in this regard. The best way to deal with them usually ends up being fight them on their own turf, right? Do the thing they're trying to do to you. Fast castle, either put a lot of pressure onto them early and feudal or match what they're doing. With the water being in the mix, it just makes it all the more difficult to figure out. But I feel like if you were to go 2TC against Ayubids, it usually doesn't pan out too terribly well.
Now, with 4 on gold, I'm wondering if this is just to make sure that we get the boats out we need, plus a few upgrades in the mix to extend this feudal age timing that he's got. Now, with the fishing boats coming out, ooh, he does need to be careful. And finally, we have a spring-old ship ready to push off, but this is going to mean LucifroN needs to keep investing. Because, of course, now there's already the thought of a demo ship that might follow up here, and the scout goes down. Big loss here for Puppypaw, actually.
Shinobi got the sabotage off on that dock. That buys some very precious time for LucifroN. Really, really important because it does not allow, of course, the building to produce any units.
Now,
that's huge. I mean, the timing, it just gives you so much time to build up your own navy first. So big, big win there for LucifroN to get that out. And then Puppypaw having to respect the follow through with this. Has a second dock, however, and that one probably isn't going to get as easily harassed by a ninja as the demo ship. Let's see if he gets the connection here. Archer ship ready to in the place. Good shot by the archer ship to hit the demo ship. Almost got it. We continue here. Back to the fishing ships now repairing the demo.
Now this is a very big extension here by LucifroN. It feels like he is comfortable with this, and it's so risky to go out all this way, but you see him microing his own demo ship, getting more in the queue as well. He knows the value of getting control here. Shinobi's also idling out the dock yet again. Now it's 1 against 1 stock, but Puppypaw, he is not necessarily in the greatest position to keep this safe. So slowly making his way back onto the water, getting control of it, getting the Shinobi to back off. But behind it, LucifroN, what is he cooking? Nothing too crazy, no production building, no transition just yet, just pure water up until now. We do see a lot of wood in the bank though. And this begs the question, are we getting a production? No, we're not. We're floating a lot of resources here. What are we cooking here, Mr. LucifroN? With all that on wood, it usually feels like, hey, you're gonna keep producing, you're gonna keep making boats, and that's exactly what he does. But with the split he's got, he's still gonna have a few resources in the bank, so he keeps his options open.
It seems funny that I mean, it's a huge chunk of the map, so I get why. But as far as how many resources are on this map, there's not that much. But think about the amount of resources they're pouring onto the water, as opposed to how many resources they're going to pull out of the water. It seems kind of funny. It's more so that they're just fighting over who gets the right to have it and who doesn't. It reminds me kind of just, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound. Like the sunk cost fallacy probably applies here at some point.
Now, the boats here by Puppypaw, he is going to be able to outproduce with the double dock. But of course, when you are on home ground, you do get a little bit of an advantage here to be able to use your fishing boats to heal up and to get your reinforcements so much quicker. But the demo ship is coming on in, and Galley standing in positional junk to be able to push this off. Now, this dock pumping out ships as fast as he can, but he needs to be careful. Oh, the demo ship getting a beautiful connection here. But ship stays alive and the fishing boats are in position to heal.
That second dock is paying some big dividends right now for Puppypaw. Being able to produce twice the number of ships. He's definitely, you can see his macro, very, very low on all his resources. He's spending every dime he has, but he's doing it to great effect. He's got a much better navy than LucifroN has, and has taken better engagements thus far, despite the fact that his current dock on the side there is getting attacked by some ninjas.
And I love this. He's so active with the ninjas, constantly just providing this type of aggression that is going to force Puppypaw into investing more into these archers. And you can very clearly see he did not want to be doing that. Every bit of wood wasted here just means that it delays a little bit on the water. Now, Mr. Japan here, getting his upgrades, getting his arrow slits, he is sitting back, waiting for Puppypaw to make a misplay. But now Desert Raider gonna be the weapon of choice here. And honestly, the Desert Raider is an answer to what you would need to make this game pretty safe for you. Double Desert Raider coming out, and LucifroN, what is going to be this response?
That second dock is still on fire. It's not just sabotaged anymore. I think it's just actually burning down.
And luckily,
good for LucifroN with those ninjas.
Luckily, that dock has paid its value already. You've already gotten the shoreline fish, so it going down doesn't feel the worst, and you already got a few fishing boats out of the deal. But of course, you would like to see that thing live a little bit more to just outproduce and overperform here on water. But it doesn't look like LucifroN is going to be investing too much more on water, as he now has pulled off of wood significantly.
backed into a corner. LucifroN has nowhere to run. Here comes the demo. Gonna land. Man, some serious damage dealt. And then his demo is doing nothing but exploding into the surface. This is going to be a sweep off of the water for Puppypaw, but LucifroN's responding with a floating gate. He says, hey, I've got a pool of water at home. Who needs the big lake?
And the floating...
That'll be enough. We'll see.
The floating gate is going to provide just so much for him already with what he's set up in the base. So we now have him in charge, I would say, especially with the pace of what he's got. He's forced Puppypaw to stay in his base with those Shinobis. Shinobis are just constantly that pressure on the map. Oh, but I do see a reinvestment from Puppypaw onto the dock there. Next to the market, he gets yet another dock, but this time, LucifroN's the one losing the scout. All of a sudden, we have no vision from either side, and on a map where there's this much stealth forest, it feels like something that might be necessary here. The wood is in the bank as well, so LucifroN should be able to put up any production building he pleases. But he does need to be careful. These Desert Raiders are able to handle most units that he may build.
I'm taking a lot of damage here from this emplacement. Just kind of letting them just take the hit. Lost a boat already to it.
Yeah, Puppypaw gonna be getting control of the lake, but LucifroN, he needs to make something else work. Double Samurai, Triple Samurai being queued up. And apparently the answer to Desert Raiders is just going to be exactly that. So let's go see if they can actually land something, because LucifroN moving now towards his back as he knows the gold fully used up. He's going to need to find some other sources. Problem is just the food. Now completely pushed off of water. He's only got the few sheep that he had left under the TC. One of the mounted samurai gonna be very happily seeing the body of a camel and now pushing on through. But Puppypaw is thinking about aging up himself, and the question is just if he's gonna have enough time.
It's gonna be really tight. He's got the water. He's worked very hard to do so, but these mounted samurai, yes, there's the horse debuff from camel and ease. But frankly, the mounted samurai are just so good, and they have got so much HP with the deflective armor. You're going to see exactly this right here. Slaughtered camels. These knights don't care. The samurai will do some serious damage, even against these numbers.
Now, luckily, there's a ton of them for now, but the reinforcements are arriving, and Puppypaw hasn't been able to click that age up. He realizes, I need more camels to push this off. Now, with the food running low, he knows he's got the water, he knows he's got a little bit of control on the map, and LucifroN needs to find a way to do something about that. Can we take a quick look at his TC to see if there's any farms, at least? No, he's still just on the sheep, so those carcasses are not going to be lasting very long. He needs to find a way to get access to resources, and quickly.
If he doesn't mind losing the idle time from walking across the map, there's plenty of deer down on the southwest, but that's a lot more exposed. Obviously, there's tons of packs out that way. That could provide a buffer for some time to get that farm transition up, because if he can do some damage now with these samurai, that'd be huge, because right now, Puppypaw is still a little ways away before he gets to click up.
I love that both of these guys are just flying blind. Neither of them having a scout, neither of them having the time or the resources to invest in this. And now, this is good. LucifroN actually being the one who tries to find an opening for raiding. Puppypaw is stuck in his base with all these camels. He's just trying to respond and not fall victim to all these camels. But I love this from LucifroN. The transition into getting a few archers here is going to be great, but the wood line is getting a little bit thin.
This is a great place to raid. Gets 1 vil for the effort. Not going to be able to get any more. Camels get in, but still a great choice to send that over that way.
And now the second wave is coming in on the wood line. He knows there's a lot of camels here, so the wood line is going to be up for grabs. And he does get a pretty good connection here on the camels. We do see spearmen trying to be the front line here, but in little numbers. Mounted samurai just make quick work of anything.
They're just so powerful and tanky, right? I think I said it was 230 HP for each of those. Very tough. And then that's quite a bit of jump as opposed to what the Ubids have. Ubids don't have quite as much. Desert Raiders especially. I mean, even if they had Castle Age Camel Lancers, they'd be weaker pound for pound than the Samurai. But the Desert Raiders especially don't have that much. And now, they do have some melee armor, which helps. But overall, you're going to be losing pound for pound against the samurai.
What was pretty interesting there, we saw an exchange where the mounted samurai tried to kill a villager, but because of the camel unease, he just left that villager on 1 HP. And it shows you the complexity of that interaction. Just making sure that your units are trading perfectly is so important and so difficult to calculate, especially in these numbers. And now the yeoman in position to take this on, and you don't want to fight this. You're about to age up. You need to try and delay this as much as possible. But the yeoman just got the castle age upgrades and now getting +1. This is a pretty scary push for Puppypaw to fight.
I love the choice to go for the Yumiyashigaru. It's just so good for LucifroN because they counter the Desert Raiders perfectly. They counter the spears perfectly. They're just the perfect unit. They're inexpensive. It just synergizes so very well with what LucifroN wants to do with these mounted Sams.
Oh, but he's using this to dive under the TC. Gets 2 villager kills for his efforts. But now with the villagers being this far from the TC, they don't get to go in and just fire at the archers. The archers are feeling very confident to dive in under here. But this could still be expensive. Villagers finally making their way in. And sure, there were a few victims. Never mind, 9 villagers total dying already. This was pretty expensive, but now the counterattack is underway, and LucifroN a little bit slow to react here, might pay with the life of a villager, but no, because of no scout, everyone's still flying blind.
Oh man, what a great break for LucifroN. That was a terrible position to find himself in. Instead, not lose as many as he maybe could have, although those Berryvilles are now the unfortunate victims of that circumstance.
And the archers luckily in position to take this. Oh, but the distraction is there, and the yeomen step a little bit too far forward, quickly getting a few kills, but now it shows you they're the direct counter unit, and we can see exactly why.
And this is a very, very tight spot. Yumiyashigaru doing a great job of just picking off the spears as they kite. They also are just picking off even those Desert Raiders quite well on top of that. Get those samurai back in there now. It's time to... Once the spears are gone, he's really got to turn those back in. Even with the camel unease, they just are so tanky. You would rather them be shooting them than the Yumiyashigaru.
Now, the difficult part actually comes at this point when you're dealing with a few camel lances in the mix, because it's so difficult to discern when they're in melee form and get on top of you. So with this, now finally Puppypaw is able to push out and get a little bit of food. Even though he's been out on the water for so long, this still doesn't mean it's been a good time. He's had to produce a ton more units to stay up to level with this, and finally it feels like LucifroN is getting that bit of map control that he's wanted. He hasn't been able to get the food transition needed just yet, but feeling a little bit more comfortable getting out on the rest of the map. And getting that tower there on the sacred site is so powerful and important by this point. But Puppypaw, he knows how to deal with towers, and that's just simply a manjanique.
Well, this thing has such good utility because this is a great counter for what LucifroN has been doing with those Yumiyashigaru. Now you've got a counter to the buildings and to those little guys who've been just picking your spears and taking off your camel archers, or your camel Desert Raiders, excuse me. So in fact, he's got one. He really should try and get 2 or 3 more out there if he can. That'll make it really good. In the meantime, though, yeah, LucifroN looking really good despite the fact that he lost water. He has rebounded very well by getting into Castle Age, taking a good chunk of the map as his, and has been just forcing Puppypaw to stay engaged and continue to fight time and time again.
Could we take a quick look at the relic counter, Mr. Producer? There we go. Yeah. That's a healthy relic count right there. LucifroN having a great time with these relics, though.
The only one he doesn't have is the one that's on the very far corner, way at the back of Puppy's base. We'll forgive him for not getting that one.
Honestly, disgusting. Not having full map control? Not when you're up against Aphids, but of course, now we can see a little bit of a counter raid here from Puppypaw. An attempt at it, at least. But the fight has been happening, and oh my goodness, almost missing it. Beautiful engagement, but the problem is there's a manjanique taking care of these clumped up units, and under a tower, this does feel pretty difficult to handle.
That was a great engagement for Puppypaw. Maybe not a perfect engagement, but a really good engagement. He needed to find a win on the battlefield. He gets it, and for the first time in a while, he's got more units on the field than LucifroN has. That's been hard pressed on the land. On the water side, it's been all, daisies and sunflowers. Out here on the land, it's been a little rough with LucifroN pivoting very hard with those mounted samurai. Meanwhile, as well, Puppypaw doing a good job of raiding the back, looking for where he can get those vills. We see them there running for the hills, heading back to the TC where they will not be falling victims to those desert raiders.
Now, the difficult part for LucifroN is actually solidifying a bit of this map control, because now, sure, he's got a few towers that are firing back, and it does put a lot of pressure, but he does have the army to be able to respond to this. For now. When the numbers start increasing and Puppypaw starts raiding in different spots, this starts to get a lot harder, but these towers are already getting their value. And we see the archers standing in position to take on most of this fight. Villagers now with the shivs out, the boys are fighting. The archers doing their best at just dealing with all these camels. And in the end, villagers prevailed.
Hard to tell how many he lost. At any rate, a lot of those villagers have been dinged up and wounded. Desert Raiders just ravaging the base, picking off whatever they can find. That Shinto priest dies a martyr. Meanwhile, 5 minutes left on the sacred side timer. That's one of those things that could really sneak up on Puppypaw. There's still some time. I wouldn't be too worried, but LucifroN's slowly been refortifying those spots. He's got some towers. Most of Puppypaw's stuff is either sitting in his base or out raiding. If LucifroN can sit a lot of units on there and maybe fortify that, it could be kind of dicey here for Puppypaw in a couple minutes.
And it feels like these camels are just looking for a bit of damage where the damage is no longer able to be found. LucifroN being very smart about this, moving all of his villagers to a much more dangerous location in general, but with the reinforcements being all over there, it feels a bit safer. Those camels just not able to find any victims, already putting in C formation to ensure that those manganiques are not going to be getting any cheap shots. But you see Puppypaw needing to move out onto those external resources too. And it tells you Puppypaw is going to be a desperate boy pretty soon. The gold completely running out now, not having control over the relics. This is a very tough position for the Paw.
Puppypaw's knocking, there's literally just nobody home. It's kind of an interesting scenario where normally you wouldn't want your villagers to be so far from the base and so exposed, but in that case, there's no one raiding them with the army, so get them away from home, and there's nothing wrong with that. At this point, they might even help fortify the forward position that LucifroN has, because if he can hold for another 4 minutes and 15 seconds, this could be his game. Besides, all the resources now as well are pretty much expunged back home. Most of the resources are down here on the side, so moving the villagers out is, I think, just the natural cause and course of the game. I want to point out too, Puppypaw now has 3 manganiques. He's built a third one, and he's got that. That's kind of the magic number, in my opinion, of how many you need to be effective with these things in big groups. If he adds one more, even better, but the 3 is, look, that's a scary looking military. The question is, will it be enough with the sacred timer counting down?
Oh, 3 minutes, 40 seconds. Feels like it's getting a little bit close here. LucifroN also getting a little bit of that mobility in there with this at the same time now doing those counter raids. These counter raids feels like they're gonna give a false sense of hey, I get to attack. The army is not all together. Because this is exactly what he wants to do. He wants to keep Puppypaw engaged so that Puppypaw doesn't push out. The sacred side timer just keep ticking. 3 minutes now, and those towers are getting more and more difficult to take down. A few more victims are unfortunately going to be taken as the mounted samurai just break everything in half.
I'm getting very excited over here. This is going to be a really, really exciting end to this series, one way or another. It's going to come down to where these sacred timers are at. Less than 3 minutes now. Puppypaw, you can see he's building towards it. He knows he's going to have to do something about it soon. The question is when does he move out? He's now got 4 manganique. That is a really good number of manganique. There are 41 Yumiashigaru on the field of play, along with 14 mounted samurai and 3 mangonels of LucifroN's own. Make that 4 with 2 more on the way.
I feel like this is your happy place. Now finally.
This is my happy place. A huge clash? A huge clash with sacred side timers going down to the wire? Oh yes. Yes, please.
And Puppypaw and LucifroN giving us the best match of the day in style is the final one. As we see the villagers now moving forward as well, with no scouts still on the side of Puppypaw, he realizes we're going to need manual scouts, and those are called towers. So, luckily for him, towers can be built by all these villagers that are very much far out of the base, so that is exactly what they'll be doing here. Manganiques finally showing what they're made of, rock throwing mechanisms. And the tower is not up yet, but the Mangonels are going to pay a little bit of a surprise as they rain hell down upon the back units here. But these towers are in place and they are doing work.
1 minute, 45 seconds. They are both playing blind. Neither of them have scouts. So this stealth forest is masking most of this. It is just like a mad fight in dark alley for these two players at the end of a long series that has gone 5 games. Here we go, the wall half built as the Manjanique and Mangonels play cat and mouse back and forth.
You can see these Manjaniques just desperately trying to get some game-ending damage they need to actually break this, but they know that there's not much they can do unless they land a perfect hit, putting them very far forward to try and get that exact hit we're talking about. But this puts them in a tough position against these Mangonels. Mangonels now trying to fire onto these spears at the front line as well, and the Yumis making quick work of the spears. But in the end, it feels like Puppypaw's army mass is prevailing. The problem is just the towers are that support he would need. The villagers are pulled and he realizes there's nothing he can do. If there was no Sacred Side timer, it might have been a little bit dangerous. But unfortunately for Puppypaw, LucifroN had some more win conditions. Even though he had the water, it was not enough. And that military value lead tells us the story of a happy Japan that finally got out onto the map.
What a crazy finish. Dramatic finish for our final game, game number 5 of this series. Man, I think Puppypaw just held up a little too long. He needed to get on one of those sacred sites a little earlier. It just creeps up on you sometimes. That's the problem, right? It's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's a problem. That's kind of how it feels with sacred site timers. Like, you don't worry about it when it's 10 minutes, when it's 8 minutes, when it's 5 minutes. You start going, oh, maybe I should worry about it. And before you know it, you've got seconds left on the clock and you have to throw things even though you're not ready. That's kind of what happened there to Puppypaw. He just kind of was forced to overextend. But a great game by LucifroN to lose the water and then to rally back on land. They say if you lose water, you lose the game, but not today and not here. LucifroN with Japanese able to make the sacred site timer work for him. What a game. What a series.
Oh, these guys are taking fights in some very questionable places time and time again, but those questionable places were the only options left here as we see those camels in those final fights just doing everything they can. The spear numbers, they were good, but 50 spears, just not enough to take down this mass of Mangonels at the front too. And I love the fact that LucifroN in this fight, he target fired the Manjaniques at the back here, while just making sure that the spears are the ones being cleaned up here at the front. You can quickly see those numbers just dwindling. The towers are really coming in clutch, and LucifroN showing us why he deserves that W over the Puppypaw. But this was just day 1, and that's crazy. We have so many more games waiting in front of us. And guys, let's take a quick look at what that looks like, as all players have now played 4 of 4. 2 matches each. And this just means that tomorrow is going to be another stacked day of matches for these guys as they're trying to solidify in those top spots in each group.
Well, it's not a huge surprise to see Marine Lord at the top of the list with the most wins, I think. He's got 6-1 overall. Pretty good day with a 2-0 sweeping the series. Other notable looks here, Vortex ahead, given that Valdemar forfeited that series. So in a good spot right now after his win over Demu earlier today. Other notable looks here, Anatan won a series, lost a series, but that series went the distance. So went 5-3 on his games today. Not bad. Been a fun day. And let's take a look at a Group B here in just a second.
Now, Group B, our little... A Group B, a bit of our group of death, because this feels like a much closer group. Of course, you might look at the other group and you say, oh, but it's got really good players. Yes, this one has very close players. And I feel like you have the top 6 names there, Beastie, B, LucifroN, Puppypaw, Louis, and Numidan. These are names that are pretty close to one another. And I feel like they can go either way. Emerson and Corvin is coming in here and hoping to get some really good victories off the top ones. And you can see Emerson and B right now in a 2-2 brawl. Oh my goodness. Is someone covering that? Because that's insane.
I hope someone is, because that's awesome. Way to go for MSN, man. Taking a 2-2, going the distance against B. That's got to be a wild series. If no one's casting that, I might have to go back and just watch it on my own at some point. That sounds like some fun.